How come you started it?
I'm sorry, you're trying to start. Okay.
No, I was just asking him why. Tell him why you started it.
I had to have a job.
Why don't we start with? So right now we've got Milam Anderson, our founder. We've got Kenny Anderson, second generation, and then Tyler Anderson, who was reluctantly back on the podcast again today after quite an absence. And then myself, Alex Berlin, part of the third generation as well. So Kenny started with a good question. Milam, why'd you start it?
Well, the best I can remember, some of the local businessmen, we went to the capital down there, and got the maximum loan you could get from the government was $200,000. So we got the $200,000. That was the land and the building and what have you. Then I raised about $95,000 to buy the equipment and get started. So that was the beginning of it, I think. I bought 7 or 8 acres out here, and since then we bought another 48 acres. And then I went out, and because of my background, I already had experience in designing and building and setting prices, and doing all the drapery selections and all of that. So I went out and I built a building and designed that, and I set my bill of materials, did that, picked all my draperies and carpets and what have you, and did that. And then I bought the equipment and placed it where I wanted it, and started building mobile homes. At that time, it was all just 14 wides. And
so what was your background again? Remind me, what other companies did you work
Well, I started in 1952 for a company that built mobile homes in Bonham, Texas.
And that's where Kenny was born.
Yeah. And
Idiot.
then I left them in 59, well, really 60. I took Betty and 2 kids and a dog, went to North Carolina and went to work for a company in Maxton, North Carolina. And I worked there for 3 years, and the people I left wanted me to come back, go to Pennsylvania. So I went back and I founded the Rose Industries with a department to design and build 14 wides in 4 different factories. And so that was my job. In those days, the way they built mobile homes is we would just simply sit down with a beer in our hand, a piece of cardboard, and start drawing out a floor plan. They didn't have any drafting, if you wish, drawing. Well, I had background in both of them. So we started, and I got my drafting board out, and my T-square, and we built mobile homes like that. And that was in the middle 50s. And then I went to Pennsylvania from North Carolina, and from there to I think it was Maxton. Maxton,
North Carolina.
Yeah, North Carolina. And then we went from there to Indiana. What's the name of that town?
Nice town.
Nice town. So all of my experience has been I did my own drafting, I did my own bill of materials, I did all of my own drapery designs, carpets, and all of that, and built mobile homes. Set the price on them myself, all of it. And so then when I got this started at Rochester Homes, I had some experience with it. So I think about myself.
So were you just tired of working for other people is why you started this place?
I had to have a job.
Well, you worked for Ritz-Craft.
I worked for Ritz-Craft in August, and all of them went out of business because of the whatever it was. And a guy in town here, Jim Zimmerman, helped me, and then the bank with me to Indianapolis, and I got the maximum all you get, $200,000. So the $200,000 costs the property, the land, and the building, and then we raised $95,000 to manufacture the mobile homes with.
It wouldn't go far today.
Yeah. And,
Value of dollars changed a little bit.
Yeah.
so that's about it in a nutshell, I reckon.
So how old was he when you were starting this place? How old was Kenny?
I don't know.
I was in junior. I was a junior in high school.
17.
So 17-ish.
Did you put him to work here right away?
Huh?
Did you put him to work here right away when you started?
I'm sure I did. Because to be really truthful about it, I remember one day, you have to pick up on this, I was just totally worn out. And I had the land paid for, and I didn't know nothing. And I took everything into him, and I handed it to him, and I says, you take it and go, I'm through. I had no money, nothing. I just walked in, whatever he was doing, I said, here, it's all yours.
But he had worked there for a time already.
Yeah. Plus,
Was he running the place really at that time?
hmm?
Was he running the place really at that time already? Is that why
I
you
don't
did it?
remember. I just remember that he went to college, Michigan Christian College or something. Michiana College of Commerce. And he went up there and got degrees in business and in whatever. Anyway, he took over then. And I was there, but I have to give him most of the credit at that time.
I don't remember you coming in and giving it to me though like that, but that's okay.
I remember that I come in and I had some paperwork in my hand, and I was totally washed out.
I remember that part.
And I said, here, take it and go. And so that's how it got started.
You remember being involved in the industry when you were a kid? I mean, before this place even really
Oh,
started?
I remember him struggling back at the time. Of course, interest was what, 21%? I mean, it was way up there. To go out and borrow money was expensive. So he started at a really bad time economically, but didn't have a lot of overhead and did most of the work himself with Bud and some stockholders that got into it.
Well,
So I'd come out here and I would night watch when they were building the building. I'd live in Bud's camper and then wake up and help them build the building. That was in 72. And they broke ground in 72 and opened officially in June of 72.
I think that's right, yeah.
Yeah, I just looked at the dates. So then I worked, I went to school and I think I worked here a year full time. And then I went to school in 70. I graduated in 74. So I went up there in 76 and graduated in 77. And he was really struggling with the business at that time. And I had a job with more business firms too in the evenings. And I had a choice to either stay with more business firms, who at that time was a pretty decent opportunity. Not today, but anyway, good choice. Or stay here, and I did service and just all that stuff that you have to do. And then he had an opening in sales in '80, and I didn't know floor plan, I didn't know nothing.
Did you have to go ask him for it?
No.
You just jumped in.
Well, yeah, he just had a spot. He says, "Hey, he was scraping bottom at the time."
So how many homes were you guys building a year at that time?
We were doing $2.5-3 million, something like that.
2.5.
Yeah, I can give you kind of a timeline on all that.
Well, I think the big thing is sometime in there, mobile homes was disappearing, and the government. What was the secret with that? They did away with mobile homes and financing.
Well,
not in the 80s, right? 70s, 80s.
yeah, it took a while. That came on a little later, but we were doing at the max. We were doing $4 million. When he started, it was 2.5, and then the max was 4.
But they didn't cost much.
We had a really expensive mobile home.
Yeah, well, I'm there.
For the time.
Single wide still, or you were in
Yeah,
double wides?
well, we did some double wides too, but it would be like your 2-story business now, maybe 7-8% of your business, something like that. And then the expando rooms. I always like that word, expando room.
Like you crank out
Well,
your
you
living
push
room.
it out, yeah. And we built a really nice home. We just did, but we were very limited in our retailers because there wasn't very many of them that would buy that expensive of a mobile home.
Right.
And then we went to Maine and New York.
Yeah, your footprint was a lot bigger because you had to find
We
more
pushed
people who would.
Yeah, I went to out east where the money was more, so the higher price of our homes didn't make as big a difference as it did in Indiana and some of the Midwest states.
We had mobile home shows in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and Louisville, Kentucky every year, and that helped. But
And you guys were like, at those shows, you guys were like the leaders in quality. I mean, you guys were one of the first ones to have like full drywall homes. And
Right. Well, monowall. We started with this monowall, it's a pressed paper product. Looks like drywall. Suits of drywall.
But
Yeah.
still HUD.
Still had, but yeah, we did a lot of innovative things back then.
I would say probably Jim Zimmerman, Park Baxter, Al Price, the president of the bank, was more involved than we realized because I went to Indianapolis to get the loan with Al Price. Jim Zimmerman had the funeral home at that time. He's the one that really raised the stockholders. And then I think I had stock in it too. But whatever, they all made good money off of their investment. I remember that, real good money.
do you remember how long it was before you paid them back for their investment?
Not just offhand.
1990.
So 18 years.
Now you have to realize too that there was a process. So I can't remember how many he had total at first. I want to say 18. That sound right?
What?
Stockholders.
You're awful close.
Yeah. Anyway, just less than 20.
It's fun to look at the original stock certificates because there's a lot of names in town you know.
Yeah. So then over a period of time, he would buy some of them out. And then like Mike Vandenbosch still worked here, so he had stock. And I don't know if Bud hung on to his for a long time.
Yeah, dude.
But there was some lingering stockholders.
So you didn't walk in the door one day and say, we're done with stockholders.
Right.
Boom,
Exactly,
done.
yeah.
It
So
was,
the last stock was sold in,
I gotcha.
in 90.
I got you.
And then
What year were you born in?
88.
88.
I remember that whenever the company bought all the stock back, I owned the company.
That's when he got tired.
Was it?
No, I'm joking. But
I don't even remember why I got the company at that. I'm just so dumb. But anyway, but I've been in the business since '52. '53. Well, I was down in Manchester, Bonham. But we got to remember, at that time, no one used a drawing board. No one had a grafting department. And I just had that talent. And because perspective and isometric drawings, I was real good at from my past. And so just being able to do all of that, they thought you're smart at that time. And we sat down to do floor plans. A drawing board just never was thought of. We'd just go and have a beer and sit down with a beer, a piece of cardboard, and said, oh, we'll do this, and this. And we just go back that day and start building one. Everybody in the industry did it that way. And so that was sort of the beginning of the business. But back before that, 8 wides, there's still some of them I know that people live in. I can take you up straight to the spot in Las Vegas.
Well, there was some just here on the lake they just tore out.
8 wides?
Uh-huh.
So 14 wides were like
innovative. Yeah, that was it.
Oh,
yeah.
What's the name of the big gambling place in Las Vegas? There was a park there. They're still there.
Lost wages.
So that was sort of the beginning of it. The roses coming to bottom as I was getting out of high school in 52, I think. And I went to work in 53, I think. Then I left Bonham with Betty and the 2 kids and a dog in 1960. And I went to North Carolina and worked with a company that just started up there.
Was that Troy Industries? I can't remember.
No, well, it was, I forget. Yeah, I don't remember. It was at the old Glider Air Base.
All right.
And it was a big piece of property, and I strung out between 3 different big buildings. And I think the whole secret, if you know what you're doing, you just don't quit. You know, I know 3 or 4 times I could just walked out and had a job, but I think my building here originally was 400 feet long.
Mm-hmm. Then you added on to it.
Did you? Yeah.
Another 100 foot
Yeah, no, it's been,
in 83.
Yeah, you know all about it.
400 foot long was the original. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So how many pieces would you build out of there?
Oh,
3 or 4.
Yeah, 3 or 4.
3 or 4 a week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then that property behind you, that picture up there, 48 acres, we bought that. Yeah, I knew it was going to be good, increasing it come available. So we haven't used it except to have corn on it and rent it out to somebody.
Not even corn now.
Huh?
There's not even corn out there now.
Nothing's out there now.
It's an empty field.
No.
Sediment spoils, soon to be.
Yeah.
So that's the best I can remember. I sort of run the factory, did the designing, worried about getting the money in and out all myself.
So then you sent him out in the sales world.
You know, really, I remember.
I knew all the dealers anyway, because I did service.
He was in the background. I didn't even know it.
Really?
Yeah, he was.
So you don't really like.
He was always there. I was the biggest.
That's what I say about him. He's always around, lingering.
Yeah, so he went off and got a couple of degrees, and we just talked about that a while ago. And so I'll give him most of the credit once we were starting. But he was just in the background. I never did know it from the beginning. I do remember in there somewhere I bought him a Volkswagen.
You didn't buy, I bought that. You might have gave me a little money, but
I don't remember. I thought I bought it.
It's funny how the story gets skewed.
yeah, I know it over time.
So after the sales stint, I mean, when do you remember him coming in and talking about really transitioning the business?
I don't really ever remember a transition plan. I mean, we never really talked about it. But I got into sales at 80, and I can remember sitting down there twiddling my thumbs, thinking, if I don't go outside of the limitations of the states we've sold in, I'm not going to make a living.
If you don't, so you thought to yourself, if I don't go outside of our current limitations, this isn't going to grow.
Right.
Okay, I just want to make sure I heard that.
Yeah,
Right.
and then another part of it I thought too was it's like the only way you can grow is either build a cheaper product, try to compete inside your market.
But you guys were still competing with. I mean, there were some big companies who were building cheap product back then. Still.
Oh, yeah.
Same guy, probably.
Yeah.
Or expand our market. So I just started going out east, and landed. I don't know. Al Benner was a big one. Those people in Syracuse, New York, Jim and Bob. I can't remember the last names. And they did 30 houses. Well, that's a home run for a $4 million company.
Yeah.
And I just never did like the mobile home business. I just hated it.
Why?
I just felt like it was cheap. You're always making excuses for houses, you're calling it something it's not. And I didn't like the games that were being played with financing, and it just seemed dirty to me. I didn't like it. So back then, All American and Heckman were the two players here, and I always appreciated what they did
In the mod world.
They
were already totally mod world.
They were already totally mod world, and All American was a similar family company, and well, Heckman was too. Yeah, and they just, I really liked their business model. And by that time, we were selling more double wides, and the financing thing where they go out and they set a double wide on a basement with the steel and call it what it's not. That was going on. I hated that. All the gotchas that go along with it to make that happen. And so we started pushing mods. And we stopped building mobile homes totally. Well, we graduated out of it.
2006.
Huh?
2006 is the last one.
Yeah, that was the very last one. But we hadn't built, I don't think we built 5 or 6 a year before that. We had one builder up in, I think it was Wisconsin.
Yep. I went to the very last one. I serviced the very last one.
Well, I do remember the first modular we built, Bud Burnett bought.
That's here in town, isn't it?
Yeah, out here on the lake. And I remember that we took the frames out from under it in November. And I remember us crawling up underneath it. It was so cold. We took the frames out, we could set the hydraulic manual deals right down on the ground. It was so cold. They just sat there. And we could raise it up and to where we could get the frames out from under it. That was the first one that we built that we called them under. I think at that time the state was just getting out of mobile homes and getting modulars in their deal down there.
Well, they'd been around for a while. We were just getting started.
Yeah.
How did you know how to jump into modular? I mean, everybody else was doing it. You just kind of knew it, or
I'd been on the road since '72, and like when I was in sales, I'd go on the road. Then in the evenings, I'd go service because we didn't have a service department. So I'd just go service my accounts, and then on the way home, I'd stop and see modulars being set. If I saw a builder that was doing a lot with All American, I'd stop and educate myself, and I just kind of grew into it.
I'm sure the regulation wasn't as heavy either. As far as
It's changed. It's changed quite a bit.
states middle and everything.
I don't remember when I started, and it's my mindset right now because of my other head problems. I don't really remember Kenny. He was always there. I remember that part. But that's all I really remember.
You don't really remember actively like planning a transition or actively thinking like Kenny definitely wants to take over this business. You were just working.
Yeah, I suppose that'd be it. But he was always there. I just sort of remember that. But
then this whippersnapper came around. When did he start nipping at your heels?
Well, he went to school.
Yeah, but you knew he wanted to be involved before that.
He never really. I mean, he showed interest, but never really talked about it. And then
I never knew him in business.
Yeah, and he always. I remember.
You're lucky.
Not just here. But I remember he was a little buck-toothed dude over in Captain's Court, and the concrete guys showed up. And he says 6 o'clock. I don't know what time in the morning. Early in the morning, and he's out there helping them pour concrete.
I remember him.
He might have even been bossing them around.
I bet. Yeah,
I remember him. Betty was telling me he would sit there in the living room and look at that building that house that Bill built over there, a 2-story job, and they were lowering a tub down through the roof to go upstairs.
Yeah, as a Cape Cod.
Yeah, and he was talking to Grandma about it. Oh, look at there. I remember, that's all I remember about it.
What was the Lincoln Log story? You guys found him playing cranes?
No, he used to play with Lincoln Logs and try to crane stuff. Yeah.
Crane set his half Lincoln Log houses.
Yeah. So I don't really. I mean, I guess I never really recognized his big interest in it until he went to school, and when he came back, that's when we were
slow.
When we were really, really down.
Do you remember having it on your mind before that? I mean, you remember actively thinking to myself before I went to school, like, this is it.
Yeah, I mean, I knew in the back of my mind that's what I want to do, but at school it kind of solidified things, obviously, because I hated being there. Then got back and started working on the line, and I think we only had, 25, 26 guys on the floor?
If that, yeah.
It was in 2000.
I mean, I know one time we were at 18 people.
Well, and after you guys had grown the business through, into the modular world, and you've added 2 additions, you did all that, and then it came back down in 2009 to 3-4 million in sales, back to where you started.
Yeah, but just for 1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
But I mean, that was ugly.
Yeah, it was real ugly.
Yeah, that was 09. 08. Yeah, because I came in December of 08, and we were emptying the building. We didn't have enough orders to run.
Pushing the last piece off the line, and nothing was coming in behind it.
What was it? February of 08, we started building floors again. We'd get an order and build it the same day. We'd keep enough floor joists in stock to build floors right when we got them.
Yeah, we bought every imaginable 2x10 we could in case we got something we did. Yeah, we couldn't plan floors. But our worst sales was in 09.
Yep.
3-3.
That was the year, yeah. February of 09 is when we struggled. I don't think we filled the building until April of 09, where we were actually running 4 full floors per week. And then in 2010 we were running, and we got to 5, and it's whoa.
So back up for me just a little bit here. Kenny, when you started, you guys were around a $3 million business. You grew it up to be about a $14 million business. You did.
Yeah, I think the max was 14.8, something like that.
You did 2 additions along the way. Why'd you do those additions?
Well, we were
to the building. Additions
we were
to the
doing
building.
more all drywall at the time, obviously, and we needed more drying time, and we were getting more business, and just everything was more complicated, and we needed more space. But the drywall was the biggest part. I mean, we were pushing things into final finish and working around wet drywall. It just didn't work. So that's why we did that 250 up front, and then
250 foot.
Mm-hmm. And then we did another, 85 back here, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you were just trying to extend the line to build the higher end product.
Right. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Well. So then we did the retail stuff too. See, back then there was a lot of people in the business. A lot of people doing mobile homes, and modular, and there was a lot of lots out there, and we just couldn't get on them because we were the small guys, right? So these big guys could come in and they could have a low, medium, and high end product, and it would go against, it would just be a better buying value for the builder. So we had a very hard time, competing in that world. So there were 2 or 3 manufacturers back then that started doing their own retail lots. And what they would do is they would take a sales guy from one of these other lots and find property, and they'd put them in business, and they would sell specifically their product. So I thought, maybe we should do that in a smaller way. So we did the retail thing. We bought a lot in Valpo, and he did 15, I think, the first year. And then we had that lot down in South Bend, or South Bend, Kokomo. And we had looked at one at Columbia City and had our eyes on a couple more, but we were just so busy I couldn't digest it all. But that would have been a good business model, and to bring what was at that time spread out business for a more complicated product closer to the building.
And some of our not really competitors, but other people like us in the industry of our size do that still today. They took that business model, and then that's
Clayton,
who they are.
That's all they did. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm thinking of modular, smaller custom modular manufacturers about our size.
Wisconsin.
Yeah. There's a couple of businesses in Wisconsin, Minnesota that kind of have that. They're direct. They build their own product,
right? Finish
it out
in a state closer.
Yeah, they keep everything closer to home. Yeah, yeah, just kind of a different business.
So that was 2004 through 2012, and then we when you guys came in, we started. Things had changed. See, a lot of those guys that used to sell were gone.
Yeah,
financing.
They went out of business.
Gone.
Yeah,
that's
when they really stopped. A lot of banks stopped buying mobile home paper.
Yes,
and that put a lot of people out of business.
That's right. Yeah.
So Milam, after you were done with the place, did you have much involvement? Did you kind of phase yourself out, or you remember?
He left. I don't remember.
Gone. Boom.
Just gone.
Get out of here. Got his motor on the left.
I think I don't know what he did, but I got $1 million.
You got more than that, but that's all right. A little bit more than that.
Okay, whatever it was. $1 million was pretty big at that rate. And I went out and bought they just come out with them. I didn't know nothing about them. A 93 American Eagle motorhome. I bought it off the lot up here at South Bend, across the toll road, and Elkhart, South Bend, Elkhart. And my sister was with me. And I went in there, and they had $152,000 or $3,000. That's what they were selling it for. Real nice motorhome. So I said, and they hadn't paid for it. At that time, they were the company was putting them out on consignment, and by a certain time of the year, it had to be paid for. And they only had the financing lined up to get paid at that time. Well, the dealer had not paid for it, but his contract was going to run out the same month I was up there, and I knew it. So I gave them what they had in it. They hadn't sold it. That was an expensive deal at them in those days. And so I bought it. My sister was with me.
How old were you then?
Huh?
Do you remember how old you were?
Duh. No, I know, but it had to be. How old was it?
I'm trying to think. I don't know. I bought it in '98, and you'd had it probably 3 years.
I just remember when I bought my first motorhome, plain as day, this lot was across the toll road right there, and then it was a big mound of dirt. And so coming down the toll road either way, it really stood out. And so I went over there and anyway, I went over there 2 or 3 times, and I bought it. And the first day, But after I bought it, they cut it down off the mound. It's lunchtime. And it says, well, let's go here. I said, I've never driven one. What? Well, anyway, so I drove, and there's with me, and we went over to Road 19, I think it is. It comes out of Elkhart. There's a sort of like a big diner place there on the side of the road. And we went there and ate and come back out. And I got behind the wheel again. And as I go around the building, you had to go up a grade to get back up on the road. Well, my right rear wheel was up on that grade. And it really fell off and just tore the heck out of the side of the motorhome. Doors and all. So I took him on home, and I went. He's told me, he said, it'll all be paid for. And I went down to Decatur. They had a 2-man bay. They just started building these things. And they could put 2 motorhomes in there at once. Bill was out there with a John Deere tractor. And so I pulled in there and they fixed them that day. They just put units on there, took those doors off and straightened something else, then I went home.
He was in his early 60s when he started traveling.
Okay. So did you ever feel like you needed to come back here and babysit him after you left, or you were just totally done?
I don't know. I don't remember none of it. I really don't. But also, I got a
He'd
head.
been gone in his head for a long time.
He'll have to tell you. I don't remember. But I do remember when I come back into Rochester, the horn was blowing, and I couldn't stop it. And I had to get fuel. I was empty when I left Elkhart. So I come in with an empty tank and my horn blowing. Now, I do remember that.
That's pretty funny.
And so, but anyway, that's how I got in business and out of business. But after that, I've had 3 motorhomes.
Well, you were done. See, you made me president in '94, and you were way done then. He'd been traveling for a year or so.
So when was your transition from? Did you jump from sales straight into president?
Well, I was in sales the whole time. Yeah, and back then it's like I was in everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't remember none of it.
Yeah, but he was gone in '92 probably, and never looked back.
And then you actually bought it in '98.
What did I tell you?
Did you buy it?
'98, yeah.
Is that when I got my
No, I paid you yearly. Paid you $126,783.26.
I don't remember that. I just remember I bought a motor
every year. So
it's funny how I just don't remember it. Maybe it's my brain right in my memories, but
he was done.
He's over it.
Yeah.
But you got to realize I've been in sales for 15 years. And instrumental in all the product development and all that stuff that he didn't have anything to do with. So it wasn't like it just was over then, or he just walked out. It had evolved for that place.
Yeah. Is that when you kind of swooped in here and started
Oh, just in '80, I started, and I'm trying to make money, and the business, just because it was underfinanced and struggling, I didn't have support that you would need in any company to make it grow. And so, hey, we went out and did our own service, and did our own drawings and all that stuff, and to get the business we could get. And then things just started gelling over a period of time.
You supplemented a lack of cash influx that you needed with just elbow grease.
And everybody did too. Everybody here had to make that work. But because of my product knowledge, being in service and setting the things on the weekends and all that, I just had a different twist on it. And so I resonated with some of these guys. And it's just like Charlie, Charlie. I'd go up and set his houses on the weekend, sell to him, and through the week, go up and set them on the weekends for him.
I didn't know what Steve up had the boat right there by him. He bought a lot of mobile homes.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I can't remember his name though. Mel
Fair,
Fatt.
yeah. Mm-hmm. He had a big boat, 25 or 30-foot boat.
He was mostly cheaper stuff though. We had a hard time getting him buying our stuff. It was too expensive. He had a low end mentality.
So the transition out of mobile homes was probably easy then. Once you got into modular stuff.
Well, it was gradual and deliberate.
But if you were the most expensive guy in the room, you know, it was probably, and then you were into modular, and that started to probably take over a little bit. You just shut the faucet
there was
off
a lot of
day.
things going on. Modular business in general was starting to be more, and it was that tug of war on the financing. A lot of it was driven by financing. People knowing what a chattel property was. There was a lot of, I can remember several stories where they would sell a mobile home double wide, put it on a basement, and they go to resell it, and they couldn't because they couldn't get the C of O.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So there was a lot of just underlying issues with getting the money in that market, which was a low-end market in the first place.
Well, we're still paying for those issues today. I mean, you still have people who remember those kind of early years of modular, maybe you'd call it, where they were there were certain people who were toying with that line between modular and manufactured housing, HUD code and IRC code, and now you got people who
you still fight that. You talk about that all the time. You still fight that.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's interesting to hear it from your perspective, where people were, like I said, kind of toying with that line, and then you heard those horror stories of, all the neighbors all hearing, well, that's not a modular, that's a mobile home. It's like, well, what do you mean? That's been there for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And then now we're still paying for that.
Well, I just remember going to several of these builders, and they were capable of doing a modular, but they could buy a mobile home cheaper, same floor plan. And what they would do is they'd pull them in on a slab and then block them up. I just thought, man, you're just going to kill us long term, But there's a lot of those products out there still today. It's like there's, where Brian Deshawn lives over on the lake, there's a Redmond right there. Mm-hmm. But unless there's a cash buyer, you can't buy that house.
Right.
So, been very interesting.
Well, I have to say, when I look at the whole story, from where I come from in Texas, and where I have been, I don't know how to word it, but I believe it would be the correct way to do it. I give the man above credits for everything. At one time, I remember I failed. He and I run the company. I don't know how to explain that. Well, but I remember many nights talking with him. I just remember it. It just seemed like things just kept working out.
Yeah.
Are you, when you look at it now, I know you've come a couple times and kind of walked the line now, what do you think? Can you believe that you started this mess?
I can't answer you. I look at it and I see what they've done, and I'm just this is nice, and that's all I can really tell you. Occasionally I get in the mood once a year, maybe every 10 months, and I just be in the car and drive around the back and walk through the plant and I look. But I'm not much of a person to reminisce too much like that. Today's today and tomorrow's another day, I suppose it's about the way to put it. And with my head problems that I've had now for since they've operated on me, there's big changes, and I can't explain them.
Yeah.
But
was there anything else you were hoping to say or talk about today?
Not that I can even think of. got me out of bed to come up here at 7:15 in the morning.
Yeah, you probably would have been up anyways. I bet.
Yeah, but I had to put on clothes and do this and that, and Betty yelling at me all the time, and
Thanks for doing it.
but no, I'm glad to have it. But I just brings back a lot of memories, but I just love it. I just don't remember. But
That's all right. This was neat. I said that's all right. This was neat. I appreciate it.